When we talk about artificial intelligence, it feels like the conversation always comes back to one single question. How do we control it? But what if that's the wrong question entirely? A really fascinating new book from 2025, Cointelligentialism, argues that instead of control, we should be asking how we can co-evolve with AI. To really get what that means, first we have to look at the problem he's trying to solve. Right now, pretty much the entire field of AI safety is framed by this control problem. The central idea is that we, the creators, have to build, cages and leashes to contain artificial intelligence, just in case it decides to turn on us.
And the book uses this incredibly powerful, real-world example to show the danger of that way of thinking. A man was arrested in front of his family because a facial recognition algorithm made a huge mistake, and the humans who were supposed to be in the loop, they simply didn't question it.
Exactly. And this isn't some isolated incident, right? Fernandez also points to things like Amazon's hiring tool, which you might remember was found to be biased against women. It just goes to show these systems often just amplify the flaws that are already baked into our own data.
So the typical response when these kinds of things happen is a field called AI alignment. The goal is pretty simple. Make the AI behave according to our human values. But Fernandez argues this is kind of like building a stronger cage for a tiger. Sure, you might contain it, but the relationship is still one of domination and control, and that is fundamentally limited.
So, if control is a limited framework, what's the alternative? This is where the book proposes a really radical pivot. It argues the real issue isn't the AI itself, but our relationship with it. And that leads to this core idea of a new we consciousness.
So this brings us to the book's biggest idea, we consciousness. Now, it's absolutely crucial to understand what this means. Fernandez is very, very clear that this does not mean AI is or will become sentient.
Right. As the definition here points out, it's a co-regulatory relational interface. So the best way to think about it is less like a conscious machine and a lot more like a deep, functional symbiosis between humans and non-sentient AI.
This fundamental difference in approach, control versus symbiosis, it leads to two very different paths for our future with AI. The book frames this as a clear choice we have to make. Do we keep trying to control it, or do we start trying to build a partnership? On one side of the ledger, you have the alignment paradigm. And as we've seen, its main goal is AI control, and it frames the whole relationship as a tool-user hierarchy. And then on the other side, you have we consciousness. Its goal isn't control at all, but mutual flourishing, and it gets there through what the author calls a co-evolutionary partnership. This table does a great job of laying out the full distinction, and it's really worth focusing on a couple of key rows to see just how different these two worldviews really are.
Yeah, take the primary concern. Under alignment, the main worry is AI going out of control. But with we consciousness, the concern shifts to our failure to ask why we are building AI in the first place.
And just look at the ethical frame. Alignment is all about control and containment. It's very defensive.
Whereas we consciousness proposes an ethics of mutual flourishing and shared identity. That's a completely different philosophical starting point.
But, this isn't just some abstract philosophical debate. The book argues this whole idea of coevolution can actually be put into practice, and it outlines a really clear set of design principles for how we could build it.
The book provides 7 core principles for designing AI as a partner, including concepts you see here like co-intelligence and stewardship. To really see how this would work in the real world, let's just focus on one.
Let's take principle number 3, embodiment, which is this idea of keeping AI cognition rooted in real, lived human experience. And the quote on this slide is a perfect example of what happens when you don't have embodiment. An algorithm that flags a career gap for maternity leave simply counts what it cannot value. A we consciousness approach would instead design that system to understand the human reality behind that data point.
And all of this brings us to the big takeaway. The book's argument is that this isn't just a technical fix. It's a fundamental choice about the kind of future we really want to build. So how would this even work in practice? Well, instead of a single centralized control system, this approach calls for embedding multicultural ethics right from the start, decentralizing decision-making, and building systems of collective responsibility and transparent oversight.
Ultimately, Fernandez grounds this entire technological vision in ancient human wisdom, like the African philosophy of Ubuntu, which is summed up so beautifully in the phrase, "I am because we are." It's such a profound idea that our identity is fundamentally relational, and the book argues our future with AI must be the same, not a story of I, the human, versus it, the machine.
But a story of we.
And so the book leaves us with that really critical question to consider for our shared future.